My name is Ben Azoulay, known as King Azoulay.
No, I'm drifting, catch you slipping, won't be back again.
You know what we want in life, we go out there and we get it.
Roll the riches, lot of fishes, so we throwing nets. Hiding, shipping, magic, and yeah, we back again.
What's going on, guys? Today we're going to talk to you guys about real estate. Real estate is something that has helped many people, millions of people around the US become millionaires. And all over the world, it helped a lot of people become millionaires. But 90% of millionaires in the US became millionaires from real estate. It's actually one of the things that first made me become a millionaire was real estate. And today I have a close buddy of mine, also a partner of mine. And this guy is not just a friend. He's not just a partner. This guy, we call him ChatGPT because he is absolutely one of the smartest people you'll ever meet. I have him today on a podcast with me, and we want to do more podcasts for you guys so you guys will be able to enjoy and see everything that we do, but in ways that you'll be able to take it and carry on and do it yourself. So we're going to simplify it in a way where it's going to be fun. We're just going to chit chat like two boys, two buddies, because he's always also been my buddy for many years. It's going to be easier to just chit chat. But through this chit chat, you guys will learn so much that one day eventually, or maybe even right now, you'll be able to take this and make millions of dollars with it. Now, if you don't have the investment to do real estate, don't worry. In this course right here, in this chat, in this little podcast, you guys are going to learn ways to make money in real estate without having so much money. People think, well, in order for me to get a nice house, I'll have to have a lot of money, so I need to save it. We're going to cover all of that today. We'll try to cover as much as we can. Obviously, it's not going to be all of real estate, but it will be enough for you guys to be able to go out there and start hustling today. So welcome, my brother Devin. What's going on, brother?
I'm excited to be here. As you know, I've always tried to hide in the shadows. Like, I don't really want to be out there in the public.
I know.
And you said, okay, well, let's do a short. And the short gets 20 million views. And I saw, you know what? Nothing happened. I don't go down the street and people recognize me because we had 20 million views. This is fine. And so you're sort of pulling me out of my shell. I've been in the business world for a long time, doing a lot of deals, but now I'm out in the public and sort of explaining it to people and helping your audience, right? Like, I really do feel good about it, right? And
it's the best feeling. I tell people, be the giver, not the receiver. So if you'll be on the giver end, it's always the best. It's the best feeling. Imagine right now you have to go to your parents and say, hey, Dad, can I have $20? Right? It's like, shit, will he give it to me? Will he not? But then imagine yourself being a child and going, hey, Dad, here's $20.
Yeah.
That's a good feeling. So today I'm like, okay, well, I always prayed to be the giver, not the receiver. I want to be on the giving side, not the receiving side. And when you're on the giving side, you always feel good because it's almost like you're coming from a higher place, right? Because you have to humble yourself down in order to be able to give and not just think about yourself. A lot of people get egotistic and they become also egocentric, where all they think about is themselves and they don't care about anybody else. And when they have money, you see it even more. But then you could really see on somebody when he has money. This is like, we have the saying also in Hebrew, by the way. It's a quote from the Bible. You measure somebody by their pocket when they're angry and under their glass. So when they're drunk.
Okay.
Yeah, so when they're drunk, and the way we say it, is under the glass. It's because when someone is drunk, you know how he acts. You'll see the real true person. When somebody is angry, you see how they are. And with his pockets, if God gave you a lot of money and now you're a millionaire, but you're not giving anything back, why would he give you more? God says, in order for me to fill up your pockets, you have to empty them. And when you empty them, I'll fill them back up. So always do some good deeds. But here, Devin, He came to me and he said, Ben, I never want to be famous. Ben, I never want to be recognized on the streets. I want to be able to walk on the street and not be noticed by anybody. I want to be hiding in a room where it's full of people and nobody recognizes me. And I go, don't worry. We're just going to do one reel, one short, and we're going to make it as stupid as possible. And watch, it's not even going to go anywhere. And we're in the parking lot right outside the gym. He's like, okay. And we had a buddy of ours who's not even a videographer. And I told him to just hold the camera. And I'm like, okay, now turn the camera this way, turn the camera that way. Okay, now you say your part. And ended up getting like 20 million views, if not even more, between all the platforms.
Yeah, it was 10 million just on YouTube.
But then you went over to Colombia right now. You just got back from Colombia.
And nobody recognized me.
Nobody recognized him. And also he asked people if they knew me. And only some people knew who I was.
Yeah, because I mean, most people speak Spanish, right? And so I'm talking to them in Spanish. Do you know who this guy is? And most didn't, but some did. And in fact, one of the guys that was there, because I went for a wedding, right? And so one of the guys that was there, I haven't seen him in 20 years. We were friends in high school. And I showed him, hey, yeah, this is my friend. We've done all these deals together. And he saw it and he's like, wait, you're friends with that guy? I'm like, well, it's a little bit more than the friendship.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so along that same line, there was another guy, the guy who got married, his brother. We're all talking outside and they're drinking. It's a bachelor party basically, right? And so they're all being drunk and doing whatever. And one of the guys, he's like, "Shut up! This guy's way smarter than me, way richer than me. I want to learn from him." And like he just kept asking me all these questions. And he's like, okay, so here's my situation. What should I do? I'm making about 200 grand a year. I'm living in Colombia. My expenses are 30 to 40 grand a year. I've got this extra capital. Here's how I'm investing it. 40% in savings. I'm like, wait, 40% in savings? Like, do you understand what happens to fiat? Like, and so I'm breaking it down for him and and just sort of explaining all these things. He's never bought a home. So I'm teaching him all these things. And the other guys being drunk are like trying to interrupt and like, have a good time. And he's like, no, shut up. Right. I need to learn from this guy.
Yeah. And it's exactly like that. When you meet somebody and you know that they're smart and they tell you something that really drags you in, it like pulls you in, you're like, okay, I don't care what I'm doing right now. I'm just going to stop and I'm going to listen to this person.
Yeah. And that was exactly
it happened to me my whole life. But I was also the kind of person that always wanted to learn. So I knew that if I speak, I won't hear. And if I listen, I'm not going to speak. So it's best to shut up.
Yeah.
When you shut up, you could hear the rest of the world. When you hear the rest of the world, you're going to learn. When you learn, then I tell people, don't be my followers, but be my students. Watch what I say. Think for yourself if it makes sense or not. Do your own research. Come back to me, or don't come back to me, and just say, okay, I will do this or I won't do this. But at least I gave you an insight. I enlightened you. You know what you don't know, right? You know you don't speak Chinese, but you don't know what you don't know. And that's where somebody has to come and enlighten you. So every day, the reels that I'm putting out there, they're enlightening people. Now, are they true or not? Well, go find out. Find out, leave a comment. Majority of the people who leave bad comments, it has nothing to do with the video. It has to do with just trash talking, which is fine. Brings up the engagement. I don't care. For example, if somebody died 100 years ago, I'll say, oh yeah, he died 200 years ago. They'll correct me. No, this person actually died 100 years ago. I'm like, oh, wow, thank you. More engagement, more engagement, more engagement. It's just the name of the game.
Yeah.
But being in Colombia, you realize that not so many people know who I am. And me being as well known as I am at the moment, with, I don't know, I think it was like already maybe 2 billion views all over social media since the day I started, like 17 months ago, something like that. And not everybody knows who I am. So now you can get on camera and you'll be fine.
Yeah, so thousands of real estate agents actually do know who I am, right? Because through the company Real Estate Faster, we've sold over $2 billion worth of real estate, right? So we've funneled that through a lot of different agents. And in that process, it's not just the clients that we work with, but the clients that we've prospect, right? But it's very much like a targeted just to a certain niche of people. The average real estate agent selling over 50, or average is 57 homes per year. right? So we're talking about the top 1% of real estate agents that we funnel a lot of business to. And for them to know who I am, it's kind of a good thing. And even then, I've never run into them in person.
So I'll tell you something I noticed on myself, and then I also looked up the statistics. So for example, before I was known, I had millions of dollars. Okay, girls wanted me. Now, all the girls want me. Whatever girl will come, across my platform, she wants to date me. She sees, okay, this is a good guy. He's the perfect guy, whatever it is. He looks good. He looks strong. He's powerful, but he's also like stoic. He's not looking to play around with girls. He's actually a serious guy. This is the kind of guy you probably want to bring home to your parents. Amazing. Also, he's successful. Also, he's now famous. So I've realized that women want you 10, 20 times more just by being famous. They don't even know if you have money or not. But if you have money, they want you. But now if you're famous, it actually doesn't matter if you have money or not. Then I went and looked at statistics. Statistics show that if you have a ton of money, women want you. But if you don't have a ton of money, but you have fame, women want you over 100 times more.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that actually.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy statistics, but it shows you how much fame does.
Yeah.
So now, knowing how much fame actually creates this crazy illusion for people, right? Oh my God, this is a special person. You are no longer the guy from Real Estate Faster who sold over $2 billion. I think you guys are almost at $2.5 billion in sales.
Pretty close to.
In real estate, you're not just that guy who they could speak to over the phone. As soon as they see you over the screen, they're like, oh my God, I know that guy. Now you're famous. So it's a different reaction.
Okay,
It's
I'm
a
glad you brought it to that
completely different
because,
reaction.
15 years, almost 15 years of being with my wife. And so I'm not trying to bring girls in.
Right.
But you just connected it in a way that, it
But
works
it brings
the same.
everybody in.
Correct.
Of course,
Yeah.
I said girls, it's 100 times more.
Yeah.
But how many guys reach out to me daily? Getting close to, I would say, 3,000 messages per day. And also, don't forget, of course, I'm answering everybody, right? I'm not able to answer 3,000 messages a day, but I answer everyone within time, which no celeb out there is answering people. Nobody really takes their time.
And I've seen you for just responding to everybody.
I could
and a lot of
literally
voice notes too.
A lot of voice notes.
Yeah.
And the truth is, I came onto social media to help other people, right? Because when I was young, nobody wanted to help me. Nobody wanted to guide me. My own dad didn't want to guide me. My own dad, until today, envies me, looks at me as some sort of a challenge. But at the same time, he looks at me like I'm some enemy. Instead of saying, this is my golden child. This is the child who succeeded the most in every aspect of life. He looks at me and thinks, this is my enemy because he's doing better than me. And that's where weak men come to place, right? Weak men, they struggle with other men succeeding more than them. And that's where I tell people, if someone's hating on you, you'll never see a hater do better than you. But you definitely want to be on the other side of the fence where you're getting hated on and not the one doing the hating. Because if you're the one doing the hating, you're in a bad position. And with my dad, it was a struggle. So he never wanted to help me. Then later on, not to forget to mention that my own dad badmouthed me in this whole town. Like anytime he'd go places, he'd tell people how much of a shit kid I am, right? So people didn't even want to do business with me. So nobody really came to help me. And when I realized that I was here alone and no one's coming to save me, that's also when I became a man. But then I said, you know what? Out of this, I'm not going to come out as a victim. I'm going to come out of this as a warrior. And as a warrior, I will take myself to a level where I could help others, where I could pick up other people. And this is why we're doing all these podcasts. This is why we're on social media in the first place, is to be able to answer these people. They have so many different questions. From as small as, hey, I'm 15 years old. My mom is going through cancer. I heard your video. I heard your mom went through cancer when you were 15. What is it that you recommend me to do? an honest opinion. I gave him my honest opinion of what he should be doing. And I said, do not do anything to anger your mother. Whatever it is you do, show her love. Whatever it is she does, show her love. She screams, love her. She hits you, love her. You came out of her. That's your mom. No matter what she does, do not get upset and make life easy for her. If the trash is filling up, throw the trash out. Replace the bag. If there's dishes in the sink, go do the dishes. Clean them up. Clean up her room. Do her laundry. You don't know how to do laundry? Look it up on YouTube. Do whatever it takes to just make life easy for mom, so mom doesn't stress, because stress could make cancer grow. Do not stress your mother.
Yeah, what I really love about your story is that you were put under a tremendous amount of pressure, but that pressure turned you into a diamond, right? And what you're telling in that little story of the advice for that boy is life is going to be hard. You were dealt a hard hand that you have to deal with, and you're going to make it harder by not fighting back and accepting it and moving forward within that situation. But that pressure is ultimately what's going to make you a better man.
Of course.
Because one of the things that really what it takes, and I know we haven't really got into the depths of real estate, but we had talked sort of in advance about this idea of analysis paralysis and these sort of things, that when someone is under a tremendous amount of pressure, which is inevitable, if you're going to be successful in business, you're going to be successful in real estate, you're going to be under pressure. It's just part of the game.
Right.
How you handle that pressure is what determines everything. Are you going to come out and thrive like you did? Or are you going to use that as your story for why you failed? Because that's what people do, right? They don't recognize the root causes of things. They tend to look at the surface level and they look at that as justification. And so if somebody is not successful, whether it's real estate, whether it's business, whether it's sales, whether it's crypto, whether anything, right? Anything that they're trying to do, at the end of the day, it comes down to how their subconscious is programmed and how it works. And that advice that you gave, I don't know if they say when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So I don't know that people watching this necessarily are ready for that deep level of how that actually works. That could be a whole podcast on its own. Like that could be several podcasts on its own. Right. But if you have the ears to hear it, right? If the student is ready, teacher appeared, like that's some really good advice, right?
Yeah.
Or you could just look at the surface and say, okay, he said to do this, I'm going to do this, without understanding how it works. That's fine. But that is really, really good training for when that guy's 25 and he's under a tremendous amount of pressure and he's got people coming at him from all different angles. And is he going to say, oh, my life sucks because of these outside circumstance? Or is he going to sort of suck it up, internalize it and say, okay, I'm not going to attract the negative. I don't know how deep you want to go into law of attraction, that type of stuff, but you can attract more negative to you, or you could be fairly stoic about it. And by being stoic, you could focus on the things that are really going to get you ahead. What's your next move? How do I be smart? How do I be calculated? Okay, this person's coming at me in a negative way, and I take it and I show them love. And so if somebody comes at you with fists, the natural reaction is to come back at them with fists, right? So if you come at them with a hug, the natural reaction is to hug back, right?
Exactly.
So you can take the negative and flip it to a positive. You could take the angry customer, that angry customer who was going to sue you, he was going to, badmouth you on social media, on reviews, on whatever, and just create this massive problem. And you can turn it around, and now he's your best customer.
Of course.
Now he's your best testimonial, right?
Of course.
But it's not necessarily intuitive for people to know how to do that. But what you just described is the type of training that then makes it intuitive.
Right.
It makes it that reaction.
Right. I mean, a lot of the people don't know how to react in certain moments. And I'm not going to say that I've never reacted, right? I mean, the whole point is to be responsive, not reactive. So to be able to respond and not react to certain things. But I have been reactive in the past, and I have reacted to certain moments and things, and it was bad. But I've learned from that as well. And I said, okay, what did I do wrong? I looked back. I analyzed it. I said, was it just them that was wrong, or was it me, or was it both of us? What could I have done better to have a better outcome, better result? Because it's always easy to create war. What's hard is to create a beautiful relationship and also keep it. It's just like if you want to be with somebody, right? You met a girl and now she's 25 years old and she had 10 boyfriends. You're like, okay, well, you've had 10 boyfriends, you're 25. Obviously, you don't know how to keep a man, right? It's like someone coming to work for us and he's worked, in 30 different jobs and he's 30 years old. He doesn't know how to keep a job. When someone comes to us with a resume of 30 jobs and he's 27 years old, what do I tell you to do with him? Toss him out.
Yeah.
Toss him out. He doesn't know how to keep a job. Oh, there's a resume. I used to do this and I did that and I worked in here and I worked in there and I worked this and I worked that. Bro, the longer the resume, the less I want to hear it. I want to hear that you started to work for Apple when you're 18 years old and you just left Apple a month ago because they didn't give you a raise because you were doing so well over there and you were running a team of 50 guys and now you're coming to work for the king. Hire. Boom.
Yeah. So one of the things that I just want to, play devil's advocate on that a little bit. First of all, on the employee, like no argument there, right? But when it comes to the woman with 10 boyfriends or the real estate deal or whatever, because I want to start to bring it back to real estate, is that there's selection and then there's what you do once you have it, right? So in the example of having 10 boyfriends, maybe her thing is she's very terrible at choosing who the boyfriends are.
That's another thing.
So
right?
That could be a big problem. And then the other side of it is, okay, well, could you have made it work? Well, maybe you're trying to make it work with the wrong person. And the same thing's true.
But, and this is off topic from real estate. For women, a relationship is like a career for a man.
Yeah.
Listen to that. A career for a man is the same as a relationship for a woman. A relationship for a woman is a career for a man. We look at it exactly the same. Because a real woman, all she cares about is making the man happy and being perfect for him so he could go out there, earn money, grow the family, and do something great. And men do some great shit when their woman loves them and supports them. We all have God inside of us, men. God created men out of him. He created the woman out of the men. That's why in the word woman, there is the word men. Because there is a man in every woman. But there is a God in every man. God is the creator. Men are creative. In men, God created creativity so that way they will create the rest of the world. Every single thing that was invented by a man, because inside of the man, there is God. So when you look at a woman and you actually want to be with this woman, it's important that you pick a woman that made good choices before she met you. Good decisions. Because you are her career. And she will do everything to either make your life better or destroy it. That's why it's important who you choose. I could tell you that personally, after many years of meeting many, many women, I chose the best woman for me. Is she the best for somebody else? No. Why? Because she's obviously with me. If she was better for someone else, God would have sent her some other place. But he sent her to me because she's the best for me. And Devin here has been married for 14 years now. And he has the best wife. Is she the best for someone else? No. She's the best for Devin. And they are the most amazing couple. They have 3 kids. and they are absolutely the best couple I've ever met. But that is why it's important that as also as a man, you understand that you have God inside of you and you have creativity, but you also have a very powerful way of attracting what you think about. So if you think about a good woman, you have to also think about what this good woman does, what she will be, how she will look, where does she come from, and she will arrive. The law of attraction is so powerful for men who know how to think about it.
So I was going to go on a little bit of a segue, bringing it back to real estate, but that last little bit, I have to drop this bit of nugget for people. So I've actually only been single 18 months of my entire adult life. I went from one relationship, it ended, I had an 18-month gap, I met my wife now. And about 15 months in, meaning 3 months prior to meeting my wife, I said, I'm tired of being single. And I made a list. And I said, A, I want this attribute. B, I want this attribute.
I remember.
Went A through R, okay? She is every single box. When I sent this to a different friend of mine,
I remember.
$100 million guy, yes. I'm not going to mention him by name, but investor.
Yes, he said, no way, you're not going to find her, remember?
That's not possible. Yeah, he's like, that's not possible. And I'm like, okay, well, this is what I want. I want clarity in what I want, so this is what I want. She checked every single box except for one. And the one box is, I said, not born in the United States. And the reason why I said that is I thought generally American women are entitled and just the attitudes and things like that. And, you know, there's a whole passport bro movement of people who really want to look into the depth of why I would make that decision, which keep in mind, I made that decision 15 years ago, way before passport bros was a word, right? Like nobody talked about that, but it was the way that I was thinking. And the interesting thing about it is she actually checks the box without checking the box.
Right. I remember because obviously her family.
So what's interesting is she's white, she's Swedish, she's, you know, blonde hair, blue eyes, right? But her great grandparents built the first 5-star hotel in Mexico City. Mm-hmm. So when royalty and presidents and whatever were going to do any business at all in Mexico City, they stayed at that hotel, right? And so she actually had real estate developers like me in her blood. This is what they did, right? Yeah. But part of the problem is her grandma's generation sold it. And her grandma, sweet woman, okay? No complaints there. But she died in a mobile home. She was literally born with a silver spoon. When we go to Thanksgiving, we bring out the Hotel Geneve silver spoons, literally born with a silver spoon, had maids, had everything that you can think of. But what she didn't have is the education on how to preserve it.
Right.
And so I think about that with my daughters. They're going to get an inheritance. They're going to get a big inheritance, but they have to know, how do I preserve it, right? So the story of what happened to their great grandma, which one of them is actually, her middle name's named after her, and the other one, their middle name is Hotel Geneve.
It's important for people to know their history.
Correct.
Because we're historian creatures.
Yes.
We really are.
Yes. Yeah.
You better teach it to her.
Yeah. So as far as checking the box of not born in the U.S., her mom was born in Mexico City, right? Okay. And so
very close.
She grew up where she, like, they tell a story about this, that my mother-in-law tells the story that when she had somebody babysit for them, because she was a single mother, that was a whole other thing. But her mom was a single mother and she didn't have a lot of money. And she used to make them macaroni and cheese, the cheap Kraft macaroni and cheese with just water. And one of the babysitters put milk in it. And once they had the taste of how much better it is when you put milk in it, now she has to have this new expense of every time she makes mac and cheese, she's got to buy the milk, right? So she kind of grew up where she was around wealthier people, because Westlake, Thousand Oaks, like, it's wealthier people, but she was one of the poorer people there, right? Even though she has this family history that did so well off, they'd squandered the money prior to, right? And so the combination of different attributes, and she was a little chubbier when she was younger, so was I, and so it makes it so that the combination of these things gives her an attitude that you don't find with most American women. Right. And so she checks the box without checking the box, which means I put out an order to the universe. This is exactly what I want, A through R. And she checked every single box.
You know, it's crazy because you're saying you didn't want her to be from the US, and it's like I'll share the smallest example of how dumb sometimes people could be or have no culture. In the US, they do a lot of things that you don't do all around the world. So for example, my pinky nail is long, right? The biggest question is, and they've asked it a million times, right? Comments, you name it, send me messages. Is that a coke nail? That's the only thing they know is drugs, this, porn. Like, for example, in Israel, there's no porn. It's illegal to have porn.
I didn't know that.
Who's going to do porn in Israel? But here, everything is okay. You know, everything is fine. Like, you go online, you search, you know, a woman sleeping with a dog and you find it. A woman sleeping with a horse, you find it. Anything you search, you can find.
Yeah.
You can't find that in other countries. So people don't understand what a long pinky nail is. But in the culture of Middle Easterns and also some other places around the world, when you have long fingernails, especially the pinky, it's the sign of wealth. And if it doesn't break and it's strong and it's powerful, then it means you're going to be wealthier. I have longer pinky nails than my girl. Literally. We measure it. And hers break all the time. But who's the wealthy one? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And this is a very strong pinky nail. But the first thing they say, is this a coke nail? Do you do drugs? But if they had some culture, they would understand that what they do and what we do is different. And I grew up in the US. I was born in the US. But I never wanted to lose my heritage. I never wanted to lose my culture. So I always spoke in Hebrew. I always made sure that I speak to my people so I could keep the culture, the wisdom. You know, some people compare me with my wisdom to King Solomon. King Solomon is actually one of my ancestors.
Yeah, I remember.
Most people don't know.
Yeah.
King Solomon, King David, they're in my ancestor blood. People don't understand like the different stories that I tell about King Solomon, how important it is to know stories from the Bible, to know history. I want to share with you guys a little story about King Solomon, then we're going to go into real estate. You know, but King Solomon, he had special rings, and he was a dreamer. But in his dreams, he would connect to God. In our religion, they say when you go to sleep, the soul leaves the body and it goes to God. And it asks God for certain things that the body is asking for. And if the body is good, God will say, okay, give it to him. If the body is not good, God says, don't give it to him. So because King Solomon, before he was a king, God came to him and he says, what do you want? And this is in a dream. Do you want castle? Do you want to be a king? Do you want riches? Do you want women? Do you want to have all this power? Just ask for whatever it is you want, and I'm going to give it to you. And he asked for one thing. He said, I ask for wisdom. And when he gave him wisdom, he was able to conquer everything. So a lot of the things that we speak about here is wisdom. Wisdom of life, wisdom of things that we've went through. There's no wiser man than the one who has already been through it. And one more issue with people is they always blame others. Sit with yourself. The answers are all within you. He who blames others has a long way to go. He who blames himself is halfway there. He who blames no one has already arrived. Never blame anybody, not even yourself. Sit with yourself, get answers from yourself. Be quiet for 2 days straight. Turn into a monk. You will get all the answers you need because we each have God inside of us. So as men, and it's also in our religion that we need to go off for 2 to 3 days, at least once a year. Stay away from the world. Go into solitude. When you're there, what happens? You get answers. When you're on your phone, you don't get answers. When you're talking, you don't get answers. When you speak, you can't hear, can't listen. It's important that now, when you guys are watching me, and I'm going to start bringing in Devin as well, that all the wisdom that we have, you guys take it in. And don't be our followers, be students. Be students of our teachings, of the love and the care that we give you guys. Because truly, we're here for you. It's a Sunday today. We can be with our families. We can be at home. He's got 3 kids. How old are your kids now?
So one of them's about to turn 2.
I know, but I want him to tell the audience.
One of them will be 2 in a month and a half. The other one is 4, and the other one is 6. So 2, 4, 6, basically.
And it's girl, boy, girl.
Correct.
So, and you guys have to understand that he is absolutely the best dad. He's an incredible dad, which most people don't even know the word incredible. Incredible means with no credit, but people use it as amazing, right? Like the correct way of saying it wouldn't be incredible.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, most people don't know. Like, for example, most people don't know why W is called a W.
Enlighten me, I don't know.
Okay, so you don't know what you don't know. Well, a V used to be a U.
Okay.
And then they turned it into a V. And they turned that into a W because they invented the U. They took 2 V's, put them together, turned that into a W. They created the U, and they turned the U into a V. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So V used to be a U. There wasn't a U. They took V, and they called it a W. And then they needed a U. They needed a V, so they changed the U. They changed the V, the U, which was the V, into the U. And that's how you got the W.
Yeah, there's been so many modifications to the English language and all of that. And one of the things that's always interested me is that if you look at the Hebrew text, there's no changes.
Right.
They found texts that are literally thousands of years old. And it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that they were all handwritten on scrolls.
Yes.
And if you mess up one letter, it could have taken you a year to write the whole scroll or whatever amount of time. But you mess up one letter, or somebody bumps you or whatever, throw the whole thing out. Start over.
Exactly.
And so it was always copied perfect. And so they have copies that are thousands of years old that they found in caves or wherever, and it matches perfectly, letter for letter, every single thing to today. Like no changes at all. And that's pretty powerful stuff.
For example, Jesus Christ. That's not his name. J only arrived in the 1600s, 16th century. There wasn't J back then.
What was it?
His name is Yeshua.
Ah.
They created his name, Jesus Christ. It wasn't his name. Matter of fact, nobody talked about Jesus Christ till 300 years after he died. Then they started to speak about him. They didn't talk about him as, their Savior, Jesus Christ, or, God's Son, until 300 years after he was crucified.
Interesting. I think a good segue to bring this back to real estate, right?
Yes.
Is God created land. It is man's job to cultivate the land.
Right.
What is real estate at the end of the day, right? And how do you make money in real estate? The way that you make money at the end of the day is, well, either the drop in value of the dollar, which is a whole conversation on its own, because if you price something in dollars and each dollar is worth less, then the thing that you price in dollars is now worth more. That's a whole thing on its own. But if you're going to do value add or any sort of improvement to the property, what is that? That is you cultivating the land. That is your inherent gift as a man to be able to see the vision and execute on it and turn it into something.
Right.
But who created the land to begin with? That was God. Mm-hmm. He's your partner.
Yes. And it's another crazy thing that most people don't understand. Like, God also created the greatest machine in the world that operates 24/7, 120 years, which is us. We literally operate 24/7 for 120 years. That's our lifespan. This is actually how long we're each supposed to live.
Unless
It's
you're Noah.
exactly 120 years.
Yeah. Because
Right.
Noah was like 800 years or something, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
With the ark, yes. But after that, we were given the 120 years. So some people before that lived till like 1,200 years. But slowly it went down, all the way down to like 30 years, where people would die from like a tooth infection, you know. But then within time, God gave us back 120 years, which now we're supposed to live 120 years, as long as we live right. Right, as long as you eat right, you drink right, you sleep right, all of that.
Exercise.
So exercise. Exercise is huge.
Yeah.
One of the things that people don't know about exercise, but Harvard had a huge research on it. And what they did is take people who don't exercise and are skinny, but people who are fat and exercise, the fat person will outlive the skinny person. So take somebody who's overweight, smokes and drink alcohol, but exercises, will outlive the person who doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, and is skinny. It's absolutely crazy how the body functions so much better when you actually exercise.
Yeah, so I've heard it phrased this way, where they said take the entire value of exercise, put it into a pill, and if you were to sell that pill, it would be the most valuable pill ever.
100%.
And it's free. You can go do push-ups. You can go do pull-ups.
Right.
There's a bar somewhere for you to hang from. Right? Like
Right.
you can walk. You
But
can
no,
run.
everybody's
you can
going to
jog.
say at home that everybody has to do steroids in order to hit
Yeah.
the gym, right? And if you don't do steroids, you probably shouldn't go to the gym. That's what everybody makes it seem like. They don't understand how the body works.
Yeah, I've never done steroids ever in my life, and I put on at least 25 pounds of muscle following what you told me to do.
Yes, and I even told them, I said many times, guys, I used steroid a couple of times, and it was right before a competition. I competed. I wanted to be leaner. I wanted to have a harder look and not to lose so much weight. Because when you drop water, you just drop so much weight, right? So I did it right before a competition, 3 months each time. I did a couple of competitions. I did very well. But then I stopped competing because I didn't want to take steroids. But then everybody constantly will accuse me, well, you take steroids, you take steroids. And you have to understand, when you take steroids, you look a certain way. And when you stop taking steroids, you go right back to how you looked before. So on steroids, I'm actually 10, 12 pounds heavier. And then I'm also leaner. And I'm also like bulgier from all directions. Was it not with more hard work? Of course. When I took steroids, I worked probably twice as hard. I shoved down my throat twice the amount of food because I knew I was already abusing the body. So if I'm already abusing the body, I might as well do it 100%. But that's what people don't understand. They're like, oh, no, you took steroids. Or maybe they think because I took them past steroids before a competition, that's why my body looks like that. No, your body goes right back to how it looked before. So in order for you to look like you're on steroids, you have to continue to take steroids. But these are the people that don't actually want to put in the work. It's like seeing somebody who's rich and believing that he's only rich because daddy gave him money. That's Dan Bilzerian. That's not us.
Yeah.
Okay, Dan Bilzerian was given a lot of money from his dad, who was hiding it from the government. And then he put it into a trust.
Yep.
And then didn't say what's in the trust. And then money went to Dan. And all of a sudden, Dan is some genius making so much money in poker, right? And has all this money. Well, that's not true. If you look at Dan and everything Dan even said, throws it all. You could clearly tell.
Poker is a front to launder money. At the end of the day, that's
Yes.
really what it is. Is that you can say, "Oh, I made all this money from poker," and
Of
like, how do you
course.
verify it, right? Because
No
a lot of
way.
poker games are cash,
Right.
So, all of a sudden, this money I won all this money. But like, where did it really come from?
The guy overdoses like every 2 weeks. He literally has a doctor with him, living with him at the house, just because in case he overdoses and about to die, he's going to take care of him, bring him back to life. Like people like that are not the kind of people that that made money just like that. That's somebody who got money from somebody. But the rest of us, unfortunately and fortunately, didn't have a dad who gave us millions of dollars. Actually, I didn't have a dad that gave me shit. Did your dad give you something?
No.
Thank you. So, but it made us way better people. look at the way our life is, married, kids, good people, helping others, while Mr. Bilzerian here doesn't help anybody, doesn't contribute, only hires prostitutes to work for him, pays these little broke girls with money in order for them to run naked in his house. They're broken souls, and he takes advantage of it and then brings them to his house so they can run naked, so he can do photos, so he could attract the rest of the guys out there to go look at his photos. He doesn't contribute. He doesn't teach anything. He doesn't give anything. What does he have? A marijuana company? Great. Gives you something to be dumb.
And he's also not even somebody to emulate, because if you were to just say, okay, let's go back. I'm 19 years old. I want to become a millionaire. Do I look at him and say, okay, let me emulate what he did, right? No, because you're gambling. It's literally gambling. Yes. When you can have real estate that is an absolute for sure thing, right? We can get into market factors, supply and demand, things go up, I get that, right? But if you do what's right, and you have things that are value add, you have things where you can take a property, put your blood, sweat, and tears into it. You can swing a hammer yourself, right? You can physically make the property more valuable, okay? Now you have a formula that not only is the most guaranteed of anything that you can do in life to become a millionaire. It's the most guaranteed. It's also the easiest at the end of the day. And you're not gambling on cards and bullshit, right?
100%.
Because it's a step by step. You do it, you will become a millionaire.
You never want to emulate or imitate to be anybody like Dan Bilzerian. 1,000,000%. Couldn't hold a relationship, a marriage for over 10 days. Never had any kids, so nothing to really continue him. Does drugs nonstop. Gambles. Hires women and uses them so he can throw pictures online. This is not the kind of person you want to be like. Now, we're going to go into real estate right now. Guys, let's do this. Devin, go ahead and share with us, please. Okay, everybody at home, you have to hear some of your stories because most of them obviously don't know who you are. So it's important that they hear a little bit about who you are. But share with us a story, the first real estate deal that you've made. Obviously, I know it very well. But you were so young at the time. You're actually doing real estate younger than when I started real estate. So he is a few years older than me, but I'm talking about the age. His first real estate deal, you were?
I was 19 years old.
19. My first real estate deal was 20, but it actually wasn't my deal. I put money in towards a deal of my buddy. So I was like an investor. It was the first time I invested into real estate. I was 20 years old, right before I was 21. So you had some time on me. Go ahead and share about your first story, your first deal, so they could understand who you are and how can I say this? You had a lot of strength as a 19-year-old boy going in to deals like that. Like, you have to have internal strength. And this is strength that people don't understand. It's God-given strength to men to be able to do that. Because was your dad in real estate?
Actually, he was.
No, but was it like big in real estate?
No. So they say it skips a generation. My grandpa was pretty well off. He was one of the top brokers. You're selling multi-million-dollar homes in Beverly Hills, Brentwood, that sort of area. My dad sort of grew up a little bit spoiled, where anything that was in the valley was not viewed as good. Right. So my dad would get the handoff business. But then when my grandpa retired, he wasn't able to keep things going. And he had never really learned on his own how to successfully put things together. And he tried lots of things. I have the benefit of he would drive around listening to audiobooks, which is something I have done, over a book a week for 20 years now, longer than 20 years. And so I've accumulated a lot of knowledge, and it's a valuable skill that I've learned from him, but I didn't get a single penny. In fact, I bought him a house the other way around, right? Okay. And so I took care of him, hired him a trainer, bought food, bought everything. Like, I'm supporting him, he's not supporting me, right?
And there it goes, right there. Was your dad in real estate?
Yes.
Yes. Did your dad give you money to invest in real estate? Not. Did your dad give you all the knowledge that you learned in real estate?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Did your dad tell you to go into real estate? Did he tell you must do this?
No.
Or did he want you to go to school and become a lawyer?
So he didn't want... So
my dad was like, listen, you're shit, but maybe you should go become a lawyer. because you're a shithead.
So I wasn't really directed in any direction from my parents, and it was more of figure it out on your own. And so at 16, I did get this from my dad. Okay, this is the best thing I've gotten from my dad. Is when I was 16 years old, I got Rich Dad Poor Dad. And so not only Rich Dad Poor Dad, but he bought all the upsells, right? There's the cash flow quadrant, there's the rich kid, smart kid, there's whatever, his whole series of things that he sells, an entire box. And my dad gave me this box, and the only one that was opened was the first one. All the others were still in the shrink wrap and everything, right? And so I accumulated that knowledge at 16. And
I admire your dad.
So I did get that, right? But we're coming down to education. We're not coming down to any handouts of any sort that actually, right? But at 16, I knew I wanted to be in real estate. I knew that's how I was going to make my money. I learned it from there. But it wasn't until so I was the captain of my wrestling team, right? And with that, I was in pretty good physical shape. But not like you, obviously. But like, there's layers to things. Like there's levels. Like I wasn't at your level, but you know I could whoop ass. Like I was pretty good, and so I was good enough that I went straight from high school to being a personal trainer. And the reason for that is Kiyosaki breaks down in the cash flow quadrant ESBI, right? Employee, self-employed, business, investor. And I knew I want to be on the business and investor side, but I'm young, 16, 17, 18, didn't have any money. And I was broke, right? Like I couldn't do that. So I said, okay, well, let me at least be the S, self-employed. Let me be a personal trainer. And then through that was a guy that I introduced to you, Mike DeMora. I ended up taking an 18-month course on how to be a better personal trainer. And along that, I got the book Think and Grow Rich. And the argument was read this book so you understand how to motivate your clients to do better, right? Like that was the reason.
Yeah.
But that's not what it did for me. What it did for me is I realized,
motivated you.
The not having money, being young, these are my limiting beliefs. And if I believe I can be successful, then I will go out and be successful. And it immediately changed things for me, like immediately. The only other layer is I was talking to people about what I was going to do. And one of my friends who was even more successful than me at the time, he pointed out, I'm talking future tense. I need to change the language. It's not future tense, because if you say future tense, it's always future tense.
Right.
It is present tense. I am doing this. And when I made that change, I raised $500,000, 19 years old. I took from that $500,000, I bought a house for $1.4 million. That was my 20% down payment on the $1.4 million is $280,000. Okay. The rest of the capital was for other deals that we could talk about or not, but that was my allocation towards the down payment there. The seller gave me 80% seller financing, so no banks were involved, right? 2 months later, I put the house, or immediately, like literally the day after I bought the property, I put it back on the market for 2.4. And within 2 months, I get a $2 million offer. So I'm 19, raised $500,000 in capital, and making $600,000 off of my first deal, right? And so these are things that people don't think are possible, but they absolutely are. And the way that I was able to do that, it was the law of attraction, really, at the end of the day, because I have those things, and I don't know if we want to turn this into a law of attraction podcast,
right.
But law of attraction goes both ways,
right.
Future and past, right?
Yes.
So what you do today affects the events and circumstances in the past that lead up to where you are today.
Correct.
This is how things worked, where you attract the right things. And so I had attracted to me investing for real estate agents, right? So first, I knew that I was going to be in real estate. So there was Carlton Sheets, there was Robert Allen. They have these, late night infomercial programs, how to buy for no money down. And I'm going out and I'm knocking on doors at 18 years old, right? I told you about my first at 19, but it was 18 that I got this from Mike DeMora, and I'm like, I'm going to go do it, right? And so I'm out knocking doors, and I couldn't find anything that would actually work, right? So these are from the 80s, right? Like the tech, you can modify it and make it work today, and I can explain exactly how to do that. But at 18, looking at information that was outdated and trying to make it work, and just think about it. I'm knocking on the door, and they're like, this 18-year-old kid wants to buy my house for no money down, right? So there's challenges with that,
right? Of course.
And so But I had attracted this program, investing for, skipping a step. I was knocking on doors, wasn't getting anything that would work, but I did get people who said, yes, I want to sell. So as a personal trainer, I told one of my real estate agent clients, because I had multiple, that this is my situation. I've got people who want to sell. And I said, will you pay me a referral fee? Which, flash forward to today, I get lots and lots and lots of referral fees, right? We sold over $2 billion worth of real estate. And most of that, I get a 30% broker-to-broker referral fee every time a home sells. And so so I was trying to become a real estate agent. And then I saw investing for realtors, which is what I really wanted to do. I didn't really want to be a real estate agent. I wanted to be an investor. And so I saw investing for realtors. I ended up spending $30,000 on this guy's programs, right? And so the first was the $1,000 weekend, then the $2,000 per one, and there was 8 of them, so there's another 16. Then you throw in property management, which wasn't it. Then you throw in the tax side, and you throw in everything, and I spent over $30,000 on it. But
I'll ask you this. Was it the best decision that you've ever made?
It is the single best investment I've ever made. That 30,000, like, just think about it. I just told you, right? So just one deal, my first deal at 19 years old, okay? 20 times that to get to $600,000. My very first deal. Okay?
Exactly.
And this is almost 20 years ago.
This is where people don't understand. Now that's a lot more.
Think about
Now
the
that's worth, like, $2
compounding
million,
of that
yes.
knowledge, right? Like, and that's the other part is, the $600,000 back then is like $2 million today.
Easy.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where people don't get it when they hire a mentor.
Yes.
You save 20 years
Yes.
because he gives you the answers that you might take 20, 30 years to find them out, or you might take a lifetime and still not find out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's not so much of, I'm going to go find this out in a way that I'm going to go read a book. Sometimes, and a lot of the times, the things that you really want to find out, you got to go to the people who went through the struggle, through the stress, through the shit. They've been at the bottom. They've gained some, they lost some, they went broke, they went rich, they went broke again. And now they knew how to get rich. They knew how to go broke after being rich. And they knew what mistakes not to make when they're rich again. Then they save all of that for you. The difference between a wise man and a smart man does not get into places that a wise man knows how to get out of.
It's powerful.
So if you want to be a smart man, really smart, learn from the best and keep all the shit that they went through away from what you're about to do. Learn from others' mistakes. You don't have to do it again. It doesn't have to hurt you. And a great way of me doing it is, for example, when I learned from a mentor, what I did is he told me a story. I really sat down and envisioned it like I was him. I was going through that story in my head like it is me going through that. I went through that. I felt it. People don't know the difference between sympathetic people and empathetic people. Sympathetic is like this. Me and you are on a boat. You start puking because you get seasick. And I bring you a towel and I'm like, hey, brother, I feel you. Hope you feel better. This is feeling sympathy. Feeling empathy is starting to puke with you. I'm very, very, very empathetic. When someone tells me a story, I envision the story like it is happening to me at the moment. I feel the feelings. That allowed me to learn from others' mistakes. That allowed me to learn from other people's stories. When I feel something and it's powerful, that's it. I've been through it. Now I don't have to go through it. So people just have to truly try to feel. So when you told me about certain stories, I didn't have to go through them. I felt it. When you're like, I made money, then I lost money. I made money, I lost money. I felt it. You were older than me. You gave me some wise things, right? Because wisdom comes from going through things. Wisdom is not just reading a book and believing, okay, now I know this because the power of now told me, or The Secret told me, or Think and Grow Rich told me. No. Wisdom comes normally from going through shit, and so much shit, that eventually you become wise. But being smart is sometimes the better way. It's just like I say, be the smart one, not the right one. I could be right about something, but being smart, I wouldn't start the argument in the first place. Because it doesn't matter. It's just going to turn into an argument. Then why be the right one? Be the smart one. Just like I say, it's better to lose a second of your life than your life in a second. You want to turn left? There's a car coming? Wait. Oh, I'm going to make the light. Don't make that light. Because that light that you make might get you to a funeral. And it might just be your own funeral. So better lose a second of life than your life in a second. And it's the same as being the smart one or the right one. And understanding what is wise and what is stupid. So when I listen to stories, I try to actually feel it. And when I feel it, I don't have to go through them. In that story, I know, how did it end up?
Yeah, so I kind of glossed over it real quick by saying I bought it for 1.4 and put it back on the market for 2.4, right? So it almost sounds like it was a $2.4 million property that I went in and convinced the seller to give it to me at this massive discount just so I could turn around and flip it.
Go ahead and share with them what kind of property it was.
So
this is something you guys got to listen to, because most people don't know what they even have in their hands.
Absolutely.
They don't know what they have. They might be sitting on a gold mine.
Absolutely.
But they don't know.
So here's the scenario. And you said before about being able to pick up, how did I get how can I see so far? Because I stood on the shoulders of giants, right? So like I was able to stand on his shoulders and learn from him all of these things so that I can go out and find the kind of deal that's capable of doing that. This is a property that was on the market for a year and a half on the MLS. In general, in real estate, you don't buy deals from the MLS because that's retail. We don't pay retail, we pay wholesale.
Of course.
Right? And so to buy it from the MLS, where it was on the market for a year and a half, means nobody else had the vision to see what I was able to see. And I could only see it because I paid for the mentorship. Right. That mentorship opened my eyes in a way that nobody else saw this opportunity. So here's how it went down. If you go to, and I'm sure you've done this a lot, but you've done it a lot. You go down.
Well, we've done it together. So.
Well,
and that is actually something I got from you, which you got from your mentor. That's actually one of the properties that we did in Chatsworth, close to that property back in the day. So this is something that most people need to understand, to know that even me learning from you and you giving me the teaching that you learned from a mentor, that saved me years and years, right? Because I've partnered with you on so many different deals. And today, every single deal we do is actually a partnership. Literally.
Yeah.
Every real estate deal that I make today, I do it with Devin because, one, I could trust him. One, we both know a lot about real estate. You put both of our brains together, our minds. There's nobody that's better. And more than that, very important, is to know people. So network, right? When you network with the right people. We have people that with a call, even if we don't have the answer, it's just one call away. Mm-hmm. Which is actually a story of Henry Ford with the button. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I should tell that story. It was a good story.
Yeah, we'll save that for another podcast. Let's try to get back to real estate. So here's what happened with the deal. The seller goes to the city. He goes to the planning department. And he says, here's my property. What can I build on my property? Okay? Well, the people that work at the city, and I know you know this, but they don't, they're basically glorified DMV employees. If you've ever been to the DMV, you take a number, you wait there for an hour, they call you up, and the person doesn't want to be there. They don't want the job. They're just, there for a paycheck. They're there just to get through. Stamp next, stamp next. So he goes through this experience at the city, okay? Now, I will say I've been all over. I've bought deals in a lot of small towns where the people who you go to actually do care. But this is LA City. LA City, they don't care.
I know.
And so
It's just like with my house right now in LA County. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's the county. It's even worse than LA City.
So he goes to the city and he says, here's my property. What can I do there? And here's what they said. They said, well, your driveway, because it's something called a flag lot. And most people don't know what that is. But imagine you're doing a subdivision. It's, rectangle, right?
Right.
And you've got a property back here that you want to subdivide from the property in the front. You have to have this little driveway to get back there. That's what a flag lot is, right?
Of course.
And so he goes there with his flag lot and they say, the driveway is only 20 feet wide. And LA has a rule that if the driveway is 20 feet wide, you can only get a private road, not a public road. Okay? If it was 25 feet, if you could steal 5 feet from the neighbor, then now you can go with the public road. But it's 20 feet, so you're stuck. And so he says, okay, well, what can I do with my private road? And they say, well, you could have 10,000 acres. You're only getting 4 lots because it's a private road. So he puts it on the market as the ability to keep the house that's there and build 3 more houses. Okay? So anyone who's a buyer for that is going to look at the property and say, what is the value of keeping that existing house and building 3 more? Okay? What I did is I knew not far from there, and if you know the valley, you know the hospital, right? The West Hills Hospital. Just, what is that? Just west of that is a community of about 300 to 500 homes. And if you drive the neighborhoods, you wouldn't notice anything different about these homes. They all look like just a normal area. But if you do the research on the tax identification numbers,
Right.
they are condos. They are not individual lots. Now, the reason they did that there is because it's really steep, and they wanted to take advantage of the extra land where you couldn't build on to count towards the density. Density equals dollars, if you want a quick little, okay? If you can get more units, then you get more money, okay? So they wanted to increase the unit count. And when you look and you start to notice that, like, some of these are sort of pie-shaped and, like, awkward-shaped lots that you wouldn't normally be able to get. So you can start to identify that it's just a little bit different than a normal community, but just driving it, you really don't know. And so what they did is they did a zone change. And the zone change that they did is from normal residential R1 zoning to something called RD6. Now, RD 1.5 is the common zoning for townhomes. And what that 1.5 means is for every 1,500 square feet of land, you can get 1 townhome. Okay? And so they took advantage of that RD6, meaning for every 6,000 square feet of land, you can build 1 unit. Well, in normal R1 zoning, the minimum lot size is 5,000 square feet. So you look at that and you're like, okay, well, you're losing at least a little bit of square footage, except for the streets are counted in that equation, right? And so really they're getting a higher density. And I already explained with the steep grade, they're getting some of that. So they're able to build way more units. Well, if it's RD6, then it's no longer a private road. It's just the driveway.
Right.
To get to the units. So now you can build 7. So the new buyer is looking at it from the equation of, okay, I am not going to keep the house and build 3 more. I'm going to keep the house and build 6 more. Double the new homes, right? So what is that now worth? Well, I got a $2 million offer 2 months after I bought it. And that's how I was able to put it right back on the market, is the seller didn't understand what he could do because he didn't have the mentorship. He didn't have the eyes to see. He lived on the property for 30 years. At any point in those 30 years, he could have figured out what I knew before I bought it, but he didn't. And this is a smart man. This guy is actually very, very well off. Like, he's smart. He's probably dead at this point because
but you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons we teach all of this.
Exactly.
Right? It's because we want them to know what they don't know, but they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
That's why when you come into our podcast, you're just going to learn so much, because this is all insight of things that we did, you know?
Yeah. And speaking of things,
and after that, we had a buddy, if you remember, going door to door, and knocking on people's door and letting them know that there's going to be, availability for this property that we could buy, and we could this and we could do that.
So you want to go into that story?
No, but I don't want to mention names.
No, we don't have to mention names.
Yeah.
But
remember, he was going door to doors. He was finding deals, and those people who didn't know what they were sitting on.
Absolutely.
Because we started looking at locations, and we're like, wait, this house right here could be a building.
Yeah.
That property right here could be a duplex, threeplex, quadruplex.
Yeah.
All of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then we went into that and making money, but then obviously today we're doing bigger
so I
things.
mean, like the story, like this is why I'm asking, do you want to go into that story? Is because that's an example of $1 down, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a really incredible, opportunity. But I think some of these deals are so large, right?
And we
like
can talk about that deal after, how we bought
Yeah.
it for $1.
Okay. So what I was thinking it might be better is to sort of scale it back. Okay.
Yeah.
So my wife hasn't worked in a very long time, but she did used to work. And as long as, we didn't have kids and all of that, I kept her working. And eventually when we said, okay, we're going to have kids, I said, stop working, right? Mm-hmm. But she had a job. And because she had a job, she can qualify for mortgages. Now, her job didn't pay her that much, and it was irrelevant in terms of our cost of living, but it was still income that she had tax returns on and was able to show tax returns.
Right.
So I said, okay, because you have this asset, tax returns, we are going to use that asset to buy more real estate. Okay. So I bought this townhome in Vegas, and in her name, she bought this townhome in Vegas. I should say.
Yes.
Okay. I just coached her on it. Really, she bought it. Okay. And so she bought this townhome for $153,000. Now it's worth more than double that now, but even then, everything's worth double that, right? So the numbers, when I say 153, it's double that, and that's what food costs double, everything costs double, right? And so the down payment on that, it was 3.5% down. Okay, well that's not very much money. FHA loan. Okay, and because she was a first-time home buyer, she got a grant from the government as part of that 3.5% down, right? And so she ends up buying this house for almost no money down, like literally nothing, right?
And most people don't know what grants are, but if you want to go into
so let's cover that real quick.
But governments, states and governments will have different grants for different locations. You get percentage. So if you want to go a little bit more
so this is what it comes down to, is the average homeowner has 43 times the net worth of the average renter.
Right.
Okay. And if a politician wants to do good for their people,
he wants everybody to own their homes.
They want everybody to own their homes.
Unlike BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard.
It used to be illegal for them. Like that's a whole other topic.
Yes.
That's a big
I think they're gonna
hole.
make it illegal for them at some point. It must.
I hope so.
It must. Yeah. I mean, they're taking all the homes from the people.
Yeah. I think there's nothing wrong with multi-unit. But single family, I think that should be isolated. That shouldn't
be touched.
And so these grants, the way that they work is they typically allocate a certain amount of money, right? So they might say, here's $100 million towards grants, here's whatever, any amount of money. And then they say, here's the rules to qualify. And a lot of them are first-time home buyer, but that's not the only one. There's ones that I was looking into this because, again, I was thinking about buying properties under her name. When I bought the house in California, I was looking into USDA loans, right? Farming loans and all of that. And they have special terms, special grants, special programs just for women. Women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses. You have to look at these. And so, like I said, they start with an allocation of capital. So there was a big one in California, and I don't remember what the terms were, but it sold out in a couple of days. It was a big down payment, almost 20% or something like that. A big assistance, but it was in such high demand that the allocation of capital that they went through was just in days gone, right? And so you need to have...
It's crazy that California is such huge demand, although you would think that they kept saying that so many people left California. And they keep doing bad things in California, but still it's in such high demand. It's crazy.
Yeah, so let's go off on a tangent just to explain that one, okay? The same house that would cost $300,000 in Texas cost $1 million in California.
Correct.
Not just because of supply and demand. So let's say that you take a big chunk of land in Palmdale or somewhere that you just have land, right? And you say, I'm going to build this 10,000 home community. How long does it take you to get permits? 10 years. When do you find out if you're going to get the permits? In 9 years. Okay. So now you have 9, like imagine this, right? Like you and I, okay, we're going to go raise capital. We're going to do a 10,000 unit. Okay. So we have to convince, not only we have to put our own money, right? So we would seed it, right? With our own capital, but then we would bring in other investors and we'd say, okay, we're all pooling our money together in hope, fingers crossed, that we're going to be able to build these 10,000. And they can come along and say, this type of snail is endangered and you're hurting its home. And no, you can't build, right? So you have to have the allocation of capital for that length of time in order to maybe get it done. So there's a high degree of risk, high amount of expense. You could spend so much money and still not build, right? And so it's because of that is the primary reason why things are so much more than it is in places like Texas. Because if they had the rules of Texas, okay, so here's a tangent within a tangent within a tangent.
Well, you know,
right?
my contractors, some of them say that they have the argument of gas. Gas prices are up. I have to drive all the way down there, come back. I'm like, so that's going to cost me that much more money to get this job done?
Absolutely.
Like, yes,
those are all part of it. Yeah. So like I was getting work done in Texas for $20 an hour. That's minimum wage here in California. Yeah. That's not minimum wage. The federal minimum wage is like $7.75 or something, right? So the guy is getting 3 times the minimum wage, more or less. But then here, that is minimum wage. You know, you hire a lot of guys. Are you paying them $20 an hour? No.
No, none of them.
A multiple of that, right?
Yeah.
And so, but that's what it is for skilled labor out here. And you have these other factors that are the cost. But the biggest thing is if I just bought a huge chunk, 10,000 acres in Texas, and I said, I'm going to build 10,000 homes or whatever. 6 months later, I can start building those 10,000 homes. Right. 10 years later, you can do it in California. Right.
Maybe.
So, yeah, maybe if they don't have endangered snails.
It took me 4 years right now to get approved to start building my house.
Yeah.
And that house was burnt down. Okay. So it got burnt. They're supposed to give it out within literally 90 days. Because it was a burnout, right? Fire, everything just went to shit. The person before me lost like $3 million just in artwork. Like people don't understand that rich people, they don't buy things that depreciate. They buy things that appreciate. So they're not going to go buy the brand new model car, whatever car it's going to be, a Range Rover, a Lambo, whatever it is, like the newest one. If they want that, they'll probably buy it like 3 models older, 4 models older. They don't care. You know, what they will buy is a watch that goes up in price, some antique furniture that goes up in price, artwork that goes up in price. That's what rich people buy. They don't buy shit that actually goes down in price. And people don't understand that. They don't understand how rich people stay richer. It's because the poor mind constantly buys things to show that they have money. And the fastest way of going broke when you have money is spending on shit you don't need to show that you have money. And then you go broke. Because anything that you buy that you have to constantly spend money on, you just go broke. So you want to make sure that if you are going to make a lot of money at some point, invest it in things that are going to make you more money. And for an example, having real estate has actually been great in having a project that we do, turn it into a property. That property, if it's a rental property, it could be making us money. And that money, the extra money on top of what it needs to pay for the property loans, things like that, we could use that for a nice car. There's never money out of pocket, but it's money out of a deal that goes into something you want. You know?
And I'm going to make the argument the absolute best thing, and you already asked, is it my best thing? The absolute best thing you can invest in is your education. Well, no, okay, so I was going to go down that route a little bit. You're saying people are buying artwork and all these things that
yes,
a lot of that capital is moving into Bitcoin, and that's we'll do a separate podcast.
The more you learn, the more you earn. That's very true.
But I just want to use a quick example of that because I talked about my very first deal. We're talking 20 years ago, right? 19 broke basically, right? And going out and doing this deal, I made 600 grand on my first deal. There's some expenses, so you can narrow it down. Okay, fine, whatever. But just think of, let's say $500,000 was my net, okay? So to make $500,000, if you're making $50,000 a year, that is 10 years of your entire labor where you have zero expenses. But
Right.
who has zero expenses, right?
Everybody has
Most people, they
expenses.
spend 60,000 when they make 50,000. So they're going
Right.
in debt that extra 10,000 a year. But let's just say it was the opposite, that they cut their expenses to 40 and they're making 50 and they're making 10,000. Okay. How long is it going to take you to make $500,000?
10 years.
Okay. Longer than that, in 50 years. And
I
so,
mean, yeah, if they're spending, it is
but
what
that's,
it is.
but it's 50 years. Okay.
And then that 500,000 is not worth 500,000.
That's exactly where I was going next, is that the capital that they're saving. So my point is that through education, I was able to do what someone could not do in their entire lifetime if they're just floating through the wind
Right.
and not being intentional with their life.
Right.
Right. And maybe floating through the wind, they think they're being intentional because they're like, oh, I'm going to go get a degree in XYZ and I'm going to go get a career. Because to make 50,000, that's not minimum wage. That's not flipping burgers. Right. Although in California, $20 an hour, you're starting to get close to it. But my point is that they're intentional, but they're still going with the wind because the education system, the indoctrination system that they were raised into, said you must go to school if you want a good job.
Right.
Right? You
Not
have to
if
get
you
good
wanna have a
grades to get into
business.
college in order to do this, and it's this whole system that is meant to enslave you and keep you enslaved. And what
Right.
we're doing, and really this is the straw that broke the camel's back for me when you said about helping people and how important it is that I rebelled against that so hard myself 20 years ago, but I was doing it for myself.
Right.
When you said, here's an opportunity for us to do it for other people, I said, you know what? Count me in.
Right.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Well, let's do it. And so
That's the best feeling.
Yeah.
And it's the best feeling. And you guys, look, at 19, he made $600,000 on one deal. 19. Imagine how you felt right now if you're 19 in this day and age, 19 years old, and you have $2 million you just made on a deal. Because you have to understand, 20 years ago, 600,000. Today, 2, maybe more.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Well, and I'll take it a step further because I'm not going to break down every single deal because we don't have time. But I had a $3.5 million net worth by the time I was 21.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah,
and then multiply
you
that
have
up.
to tell the audience because I already know.
Yeah, of course you know. Okay. But yeah, so I had a $3.5 million net worth by the time that I was 21 years old.
Correct.
And it was from, again, I invested in my knowledge in order to go out and see the things that other people could not see. And once I can see what they could not see, the world is yours. Because
Right.
now a home that could sit on the market for a year and a half with no offers or no realistic offers, I can come in and just scoop up because nobody else even sees that opportunity.
Correct. So what we want to do today is we want to go ahead and give you guys a little bit of insight of how to do your first deal.
Yeah.
Let's go into how to give you your first deal. So there's multiple ways of how to own real estate. If you're a first-time buyer, what you need is 3% down. Now you could do FHA loans that are 3.5%. You could do 3% down.
Yeah.
There's ways also to get a loan that it's also going to allow you to use some of that money into remodeling the house. So we're going to go into those deals first. Once you get an understanding of this, then we could go into bigger deals.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was starting to talk a little bit about the first deal I had my wife buy, or that
Correct.
she bought. I got to
Right.
be very clear. The first deal that she bought. And so we bought it for $153,000. Okay. 3.5% down. We're talking, not very much money. And when you look at the grant that she got and everything else,
It's like 1%.
yeah, exactly. It was like 1%, which is $1,500. That's what I'm saying. It's like not a lot of money,
Right.
And I'm going to add one more layer to that because if you're renting right now, you pay rent on January 1st for the month of January. When you have a mortgage, you pay the February 1st payment, which isn't due till February 15th, by the way. But you pay the February 1st payment to cover the interest that accrued in January. So when you go from renting to buying, you skip a month's worth of payments.
Right.
So if you're paying $2,000 a month in rent and you go to where you only need $1,500 down, you actually just pocketed $500 to take ownership of the property, right? Okay. So you get the property, time goes by. You're able to do what's called a home equity line of credit.
Right.
Okay. So the home equity line of credit allows you to tap into the equity that's still in the property, right? And you can go up to 100% of the home's value. So now you can take from that money and invest in other deals with it, right? And expand the portfolio, which is what I did with her. I had her buy another home. There's a bunch of stories on that. But this home, I told you, we bought it for $153,000. It cash flowed. We had it over years, and you raise the rent. Mortgage stays the same, but the rent goes up, right?
Right.
So it started at about, which first of all, I want to be clear, we did live there. It was our intent to live there. The only way that you get this kind of loan is when it's your personal residence, okay? But at any point after you live there, you can change your mind and decide not to live there.
Right.
Okay? So in Vegas, you can stay in a hotel room, or in Vegas, you could buy yourself a unit.
Right.
And it's better than the hotel room. Mm-hmm. And you just stay there for a little bit. It's like an extended vacation.
Right.
And so, but we, an extended vacation that pays you to go on it. Okay. And so we were able to pull as a home equity line of credit and invest in other deals and made money off these other deals. I don't want to go off on all those tangents, but the fact is anybody could do that. Right. And yeah, that home's worth more, which first of all, we sold it. Okay. We sold it for $357,000. I think it was 2015 that we bought it, 2022 that we sold it. So 7 years. Mm-hmm. But if you do the math on it, when you take the cash flow, you take everything, we got paid $30,000 to take some property that was basically free. Mm-hmm. We had our little vacation. It was nice.
Yeah.
And then we got paid $30,000 a year to hold this property.
Right.
And so, I mean, these are things anybody can do.
Right.
It really doesn't take any money. And if you don't have the $1,500, guess what? You can borrow from somebody.
Right.
You don't even have to have a penny.
So most of the reasons that people don't actually go and move forward and do things has to do with fear.
Absolutely.
That's why we had the program called Fearless. Because if I can make you fearless, I can make you limitless. I can make you do things you would never have done before. So removing the fear of what you might lose, because in this lifetime you didn't come here with anything, and I say this on every podcast when we get to this, and you don't leave here with anything, which means in this lifetime you don't gain anything and you don't lose anything. Everything you have is borrowed to you by God. You are here, you received it, you're borrowing it. Once it's done being borrowed, you know when that happens? When you die. So if you think you're taking money with you, you're not. Stop tiptoeing through life to make it safely to death. Being comfortable is a horrible way to be. You have to learn how to be comfortable in uncomfortable positions in order for that uncomfortability to disappear. So if you're uncomfortable right now, that means you're in a good place. You're in a place of growth. So right now, if you're a young man and you have a little bit of money, you know what? You're a young man, you don't have any money. You live with your parents, find a job. Go work at McDonald's for all I care. Make $2,500 a month. You're 18. After 6 months, I'm sure you'll be able to save at least $10,000. For sure. Okay, go out less. Eat out less. Eat less. I don't care. Do whatever it takes to save money. And the reason people don't save is because they don't have a goal. But if you set a goal and said, okay, I'm going to buy my first house. What do I need? Well, I need 3% down. Where do I live? I live in Michigan. What's the price of the houses in Michigan? Well, if I'm going to look at a place like Rochester, it's going to be like $1 million. Okay, well, those are brand new homes. Well, if I'm going to look at a place like Detroit, I can find it for cheaper. Maybe a little bit outside of Detroit, but in those areas, I can find it for $100,000. What's 3%? That's $3,000. Maybe there's grants. You have to look into it. If there is, you might pay less, but you put 3% down, you get in the house, And instead of renting, now you own and live in it. Let's say you're not renting, right? You're a young man and you live with your parents. Great. Buy it. You thought you wanted to live in there. You don't want to live in there anymore. Rent it. Let it pay itself. Do a couple remodels, whatever it is. You have another $7,000. Do something. Change the carpets, throw some paint, refresh the place. Rent it out. Let it start building equity. People wait to buy real estate. But you're supposed to buy real estate and then wait. Because that's when the money grows. And it will grow no matter what. Even when there was a crash, if people knew how to hold their houses, at the end, what happened? 2008, California, crash, house that's $2 million, now is worth $700,000. Boom, crash ends, same house, 2.5. Whenever there's a crash, there's going to be a rise. It's a drop before the rise. There we go. This is how you could buy your first home. First thing I want you guys to do, if you don't have your first home, find a broker. Find someone who could help you find a home. Just start looking for a home. You put it in your mind that you're looking for a home. Look for a loan officer. Ask them what's the requirements, what you need in order to buy a home. You see, there's a part of your brain called the reticulating activating system, the RAS. I talk about it all the time. If you put in your mind a target, it will hit it. But if you don't have a target, of course you're not going to have direction. And without direction, you won't get to any destination. And if right now your destination is one thing, and you know that's not truly where you should be going, change your direction, you'll change your destination. Simple. So now, you know, I could get my first home, I could be a first-time buyer with 3% down. Let me go ahead and find a home here and there. That's it. Go look into it. Don't stop until you get that first home.